Alright, hello, it's your Glasgow Genuine Scottish Rebel, Scotland's ambassador and Celtic Maddie. How's it going? How's it going? What you're up to? And, of course, yes for Scotland. Alright, I'd love to, as I said, so today's video will be not that long, but I'd love to focus on Scotland as swallow freedom. Alright, I want to compare Scotland to swallow, because believe me, Scotland is a swallow, imprisoned, trapped in the clutches of Westminster rats for ages, for centuries, man. The time is unknown, but for ages, for centuries. Scotland has been always treated as a pawn, as a afterthought for Westminster, you know, for the English. Maybe we deal with her later on. Never. Scotland has been treated as a pawn as well. Do this, do that, you know. And maybe I think, you know, enough is enough. Because imagine being treated like afterthought or a rubbish that you only deserve to be kicked off or trapped onto. Or just, you know, being thrown away because of that. It's just because of that. You know, so imagine feeling like you know, that wee swallow, trapped, imprisoned. She can't just move because she's tied by Westminster rats, who's been always pretending that, oh, we care about the best interests of Scotland, we care about her and that, blah, blah, blah. That's utter pish, man. Utter pish. So, I'm saying, just fucking stop it. Enough is enough. Scotland needs to find inner power. To stone free. And I long for that day. I long for that day. And I want to see Scotland stoning free at last, you know. And let fucking Westminster rats, let them fucking be scared of us. Scared of Celtic nations. Because if we come together, if we march together in London, if we march together straight under their noses, they may see our power. That Scotland and her people are fucking unstoppable. Plus, Celtic nations are unstoppable. So, Westminster rats, the English ones, please, you know, be scared of us. Because the threat is yet, the threat and the independence is yet to come. And going, we, Scots, we, together, united together, Scotland, we're going to regain that freedom and independence for her. So, Scotland is a swallow of freedom. You know that there are nations born into comfort, wrapped in the silk and the certainty, never forced to fight for the right to breathe in their own language. Right? Scotland was never one of them. Scotland was, let me say that, Scotland was born in Stormlight. Scotland was born in storms. So she knows how that is. Alright? Forged in the bitter of how of northern winds. And sharpened on the edge of grief. Ours is a country that never always carried chains around its wrists whilst pretending they were only ribbons. And yet Scotland still sings, you know. This breaks my heart every single time, you know. Because no matter how often this country is betrayed, drained, silenced, as you know, Westminster did it again. SNP voted, Scottish Parliament voted 72, Unionist parties 52, 55. But again, Scotland's voice was ignored. So we're just going for it. We're just going to take next fucking step. A Celtic Nations Alliance. Plus then, if you don't want to listen to us while you're marching through the streets of Edinburgh, we can go. We have to go, or Glasgow. We can go under their fucking noses to London. Let them see real Scots, real Scotland. The sea of flags of green. That massive deep sea of flags of blue and white. These still tires. There's lion rampants. There's yes signs everywhere. Let them see it. Let's make it impossible for Westminster to just ignore us then. Let's march with us. Because no matter how often this country is betrayed, drained, as I say, it's silenced or mocked, you know, there remains something inside that refuses to die, something that something fierce, something a wench, like a swallow, beating its blood against that the bars and cathedral window. You know, desperate for sky, desperate for home, desperate for freedom. So when I hear that song, man, Swallow Imprisoned, I don't simply hear poetry here. I hear Scotland herself. A creature born for open air, trapped in the chains of Westminster. Do this, do that, you know. And trapped beneath cold stone ceilings built by power. Powers that never truly understood him. So, a black dagger, Skindoo, ripped fae the wind's chest. Living thing imprisoned inside. Structures too heavy, too cruel, too ancient to care about. Whether beauty survives within them. And still the swallow flatters. Still she fights, you know. Still Scotland remembers the taste of the heavens. So Scotland to me has always felt like that swallow. Not merely a country upon a map. No flag waving above ancient stone. But not merely a collection of tunes, you know, battered by rain and history, but a living, breathing creature of sky and stone. A restless soul born for flight. A black winged wonder cutting through the skies, northern winds, with fierce elegance, beauty in that, you know. Refusing chains, refusing silence, refusing surrender. And let me tell you that, because every single time I read those words, swallow, black dagger ripped by the wind's chest, I don't merely see a bird trapped within cathedral walls. I see Scotland. I see a nation caught beneath the heavy vault of another power's shadow. I see, you know, a bonny, brilliant creature, made for endless skies, yet condemned for centuries to circle stone ceilings, not of her own making. I see people taught to doubt themselves despite caring mountains in their bones and oceans in their blood. That swallow was never born for imprisonment, man. And Scotland was never born to bow. Like a fucking pawn. Look at her history. Look at her language. Look at her poets, her rebels, her workers, her dreamers, her shipbuilders, her musicians, her fairs, her mothers, carrying entire generations. Through hardship, with fire still blazing their eyes. Look at the glens. Look at the islands stoning against Atlantic fury. Look at Glasgow, bruised aloud, working class and beautiful beyond explanation. Look at the Highlands, where the earth itself seems to remember every footstep of those who refused to kneel. These brave Scotsmen. This nation is no weak. This nation has merely been taught to forget its own strength, you know. That swallow in the poem crashes against the cathedral's invisible walls. Prison, trapped beneath towering arches of stone. The cathedral looms like fate itself, cold, ancient, merciless, man. And how many times has Scotland been tell the same thing? How many fucking times Scotland has been tell the same thing? You're too small. You can't survive. You can't stand alone. You need permission to dream. But Swallow still beats her wings. Even wounded, even terrified, man. Even trapped. Because fate. Listen to that. Because flight is written into Swallow's soul. And freedom is written into Scotland's. This is why independence matters beyond economics, beyond Westminster's arithmetic, beyond newspapers. Snaring for London offices that dare neither understand nor care for Scotland except when Scotland dares to raise her voice too loudly. Independence is normal. Independence is spiritual. Independence should be given to Scotland without any fucking begging. It's emotional. It is reclaiming our dignity. It is Scotland looking into their mirror of centuries of being spoken over, finally saying, we remember who we are. Because what kind of nation rich in oil, energy, intellect, culture, war, history and human spirit is constantly told she is too poor to govern herself? What kind of logic demands Scotland believe in herself only within limits set by others? What kind of love asks a nation to shrink itself forever? No. There comes a moment in history where people must stop apologising for wanting to breathe freely. You know, it's full stop, man, here. This is that moment. The time has come. Now is the hour. Scotland must stand upright upon her own feet, with her head held above, high against every storm. Not with bitterness, not with hatred, but with conviction, with calm courage. With a certainty that the self-determination is no extremism, is normality, is natural condition of every proud nation upon this earth. So, I grow tired of hearing Scotland spoken about like that trap swallow. Fragile, dependent, incapable. Let me ask you these questions. Fragile. This country survived clearances, industrial collapse, exploitation, poverty, political neglect, man. Scotland carried empire upon her shoulders, yet was taught to think herself incapable of caring her own future. So stop talking shite about Scotland being fragile. Next one is dependent. Tell that to the workers. Tell that to the workers who built ships upon the Clyde, that travelled across the world. All right. Tell that to the communities that endured when governments abandoned them. Tell that to the generations who survived because Scottish resilience is carved into the marrow of this nation. Incapable. Then how does Scotland produce brilliance after brilliance despite every limitation imposed upon her confidence? No, Scotland isn't incapable. Scotland isn't fragile, and Scotland isn't dependent. Scotland is imprisoned potential. And imprisoned things eventually either die or break the walls around them. So, that swallow beaten against Cathedral Stone is Scotland's soul itself. The black wings striking against silence. The desperate need for open sky. The refusal to accept captivity as destiny. Now, I ask people this sincerely, especially those who voted no in 2014, especially those in places like Aberdeen, right, and other voters of no around Scotland, where fear was allowed to drown hope. I'm asking you these questions now. Do you love Scotland enough? And let me be clear here, this is not an insult. This is not hatred. This is a genuine question for the deepest chambers of my heart. Do you love Scotland enough to trust her? Do you love Scotland enough to believe her? Do you love Scotland enough to stand by her and sacrifice your life included? Everything in your life included, alright? Because love without trust is not love at all. If I stood there before every one of you, every one of them, I would ask them to imagine Scotland not as a politics, not as a percentages, no as newspapers screaming doom, but as a bonny lassie standing before them. Alright, imagine that. A lassie with tired eyes for centuries of being doubted. A lassie carrying songs older than empires. A lassie with heather upon her skin and Atlantic winds in her hair. A lassie asking only one question. Do you believe in me? And could you truly look at that lassie straight into her eyes and say no again? Could you truly tell her she is too weak to walk alone? Could you tell her she must forever ask permission to shape her own future? Could you watch her wings tremble against cathedral walls, still in this captivity as safety? Because I couldn't. Truly, I never could. To say no to Scotland feels... Sorry, but to me, feels like saying that Swallow she was born onto circle darkness forever. But she wasn't born for darkness. She was born for the heavens. And Scotland was born for self-respect. This is something profoundly tragic in a nation doubting itself while the world watches in confusion because so many outside Scotland, especially me, because I love Scotland with my whole heart so deeply, already see her greatness clearly. They see genius, beauty, culture, strength, and those ancestors who fought and died for Scotland simply because they hold Scotland dear, and that was enough. Look at them. They should be your example. Are you brave enough to stand by Scotland with your head rising above horizons? Are you brave enough to see hold Scotland dear? And for her, I sacrificed everything, my life included. Would you fight till the last breath and shout out loud to help Scotland regain this independence at last? Think about it. Think about your ancestors. who sacrificed their lives for Scotland. Because they hold Scotland dear. Look at Culloden. Especially. Are your ancestors like William Wallace? Or Robert the Bruce? What worries me, you know, that there's still inside Scotland remains that this terrible inherited hesitation. The centuries-old whisper saying, know your place. And this is fucking ridiculous, man. Why Hanners or Scott believe, know your place, all the time. Let's do it as Westminster asks. Enough! People, wake up! Those doubters. Those voters of no for 2014. Fucking wake up! Scotland needs you. Look at your ancestors. Just do that for them. You know? Vote yes for Scotland. Just for fucking once. And for all. That whisper, it's haunted Scotland for generations, you know. It haunted workers, it haunted poets, it haunted Gaels driven for their lands. It haunted communities sacrifice their profits elsewhere. But it still haunts politics now. But I believe something is changing. I truly do. I believe more and more Scots are beginning to remember themselves. The younger generations especially. They don't carry the same fear. They ask direct questions. Why should Scotland not choose her own future? Why should decisions about Scotland continue to rest elsewhere? Why should this ancient nation behave like a child, forever asking permission? And Westminster has no convincing answer except fear. Fear, always fear, man. And that fake kindness that we care for Scotland. The cathedral of the poem is built with fear. Fear because fear becomes stone. Fear becomes a vault. Fear becomes presence. So enormous people forget the sky exists. But the swallow remembers. And Scotland remembers too. This is how independence will never truly disappear, no matter how many times it's delayed, mocked or attacked. Because independence is not simply a policy movement now. It has become emotional memory. It lives in people's hearts, that unfinished music. A nation doesn't stop yearning to speak fully in its own voice once has tasted the possibility. And perhaps this is how the union grows more fragile every year. Because unions, built upon economic warnings, rather than emotional belonging, eventually crack. You can't permanently scare a nation into love. Love must be freely. Scotland deserves that freedom. Not because Scotland is... To me, Scotland is perfect. So maybe some people think that Scotland isn't perfect. Those for Westminster, I mean, some of the English people, I just admit that. But for me, Scotland is perfect. Alright? Not because independence would magically erase hardships, but because dignity matters. Because responsibility matters. Because nations grow strongest when they own both their triumphs and their mistakes. I want Scotland to stand in the world, not as somebody's region, not as somebody's not a managed possession, not as a permanently hesitant voice trapped beneath another parliament's ceiling, but as herself, fully, proudly, and unapologetically, like a swallow finally escaping cathedral, darkness into roaring daylight. Can you imagine it? I mean, truly, you know, after endless circling, after exhaustion, after terror, the sudden breaking open of sky, the wings no longer striking stone, the air no longer poisoned by confinement, the creature soaring against over rivers, hills, golden meadows, glens, lochs, highlands, islands of Scotland, exactly as nature intended. This Scotland a dream of. A Scotland no longer apologising for existing. A Scotland speaking in her own voice to the world. A Scotland choosing compassion, fairness, dignity, not because another government permits it, but because her own people decide it. So, a Scotland walking taught among nations. And aye, there will be storms. There are always storms. But the swallow is sister of storms. Scotland has never feared storms. Scotland was born in them. So I see this now with every ounce of my poetic heart and soul. Don't let fear imprison this nation forever. Don't mistake captivity for security. Don't confuse smallness forced upon Scotland with Scotland's true size. Because this country is enormous in spirit. And one day, whether soon or years from now, Swallow will escape the cathedral. One day, Scotland will remember fully what she is, what she finally rises, lying spread like beneath free northern skies. Generations yet unborn will look back and wonder why anybody would ever doubt her at all. This is how Scotland can never truly be defeated. Wounded, aye. Exhausted, often. Silenced for a while, perhaps. But never broken. Because buried deep beneath all the cynism, beneath all the cynism, all the politics, all the compromise and fear that still lives in the swallow. There still lives that swallow. The restless black-winged spirit flown towards the light with black-dyed feathers. And stubborn grace. A spirit that remembers what freedom feels like, even after generations inside the cage. And maybe that is Scotland's curse, to remember too much. But it's also Scotland's salvation. For a nation that still dreams of the sky can never belong forever to the stone. One day, the vaults crack. One day, the net tears apart. One day, that swallow escapes the cathedral and rises again into the wild northern air where she always belonged. And when that day comes, Scotland will only ask permission to be free. She will simply fly. So, in finishing my video now, I want to encourage you to support this action. Will you step up, or will we let this die? The idea is out there. It has been grassroots on fire, making a massive, undeniable wave of Scottish voices directly to Westminster's doorstep to demand our right to self-determination. We all want it. We all know it. It's exactly the kind of bold, historic move Scotland needs to breach the media blackout and force London to face the electorate they are trying to ignore. But let's be completely honest with ourselves, man. They will not happen without you, right? You have to join. You have to organise this march. Straight under the noses of the Westminster Rads, the Prime Minister, every single one who ignores Scotland. Because this is ignoring Scotland's voice. Not only Scotland's voice, but electorate. It's plain anarchy, no democracy. And even though the magnitude can't be built by one person, it can't be powered by internet enthusiasts, alright? It takes an army of dedicated volunteers working behind the scenes that turn massive vision into self-organised reality. We need people right now to take on critical real-world tasks. Logistics and transports. Legal permissions. Finance and fundraising, safety and stewarding, managing. Media and tech. Here's the hard truth. Don't wait for someone else to step up. because that's someone else. It's looking the exact same thing they are waiting for you. If everyone sits back expecting a magic committee to appear and organise this for them, the march will never happen. The other buses will never be booked. The permits will never be signed. Westminster wins by default because they count on our enthusiasm staying safely behind our keyboards. If they refuse to hear us for Edinburgh, let's see them trying to ignore us in London. Alright? When they see the deepest sea of saltires under their noses. Who's ready to take that mandate to their doorstep? Alright? We keep saying independence isn't just for the SNP, the Greens, the Alba, or any other party or group. It's for us. You and me. And it's most of all for Scotland. Let's prove it. So would you join a national march on London to demand Scotland's right to choose? Please share this. Help us organise it. And fight for Scotland's independence. Always. Yes for Scotland.